Good evening and welcome to yet another episode of South African of the Year Daily Show here on ANN7 Channel 405. The show will be going to the lives of extraordinary and inspiring South Africans doing great things across the country through the lens of reflection and progression. My name is Masego Maps Maponyane.
As Matt said, this is the show where we sit down and get up close and personal with our nominees as we count down to the main event on the 25th of November. Ticket Pro Dome, that's where it's all going down. But back to the studio today, we're sitting with a Conservationist of the Year nominee, the EWT project, the Guarding Project in particular, and our guest is Derek van der Merwe. And where's the job title you're higher? It's a job title that might take the entire show for us to dissect and understand, but he is the Conflict Mitigation Field Officer. Derek, What a mouthful.
I know, it's true. I used to struggle with it sometimes.
Derek, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Tell us more about the program, just to make it easier for ourselves to digest and for our viewers to digest.
Well, you know what, I actually work outside of protected areas in South Africa, and if you think about it, South Africa's land surface area, only just over 6% of our land surface is actually formally protected. So there's very little conservation work going on out there that is outside of protected areas. So it's very important for us to conserve this wonderful biodiversity that we do have outside of protected areas. So I mainly work in communities on farmland throughout South Africa, and I help community members as well as farmers out there try and protect their livestock against predators. Because we do have a lot of predators outside of protected areas, and it is someone's job. Someone has to also protect these predators, and that's generally what I do.
Derek, looking at the beginning-ish, you know when English is trying to trip you up, the beginnings of the project, if we're looking at the guard dogs, why in particular, where did the need come from? What was happening in communities and with the livestock and the particular wildlife that's in question?
Well, you know what, you know, in a lot of these areas, people were losing a lot of livestock to predators. And we needed to come up with a method that was non-lethal, and because what a lot of people were doing, they were putting poisons out there, they were gin trapping, they were putting snares out to persecute these predators to protect their livestock. So we had to come up with different methods and try and look at alternate ways how to protect their livestock without killing and persecuting these predators. So we looked at Europe, and 3,000 years ago in Turkey, they actually started using livestock guardian dogs to protect their sheep against wolves and bears out there, and it worked fantastically well. So we decided to take that idea and bring it to South Africa, and we started bringing these Anatolian livestock guardian dogs, which come from Turkey originally, and putting them on farms in South Africa, and to see if they could protect the livestock against predators. And since we've been implementing, we've had fantastic results. We've now placed nearly 180 dogs throughout South Africa.
Wow. And
on those farms where we've placed these dogs, their livestock predation has come down up to 95%. So it works fantastically well.
How does that predator get intimidated enough by a dog who you'd assume would be completely outstrengthed, so to speak, overpowered by a bigger, more powerful predator, than, you know, to not want to do anything?
No, it's quite interesting, but you know what, predators are very scared of getting hurt, because as soon as they get hurt out there, they cannot hunt anymore. And if they cannot hunt anymore, they lose condition and they can end up passing away. So whenever there's another threat towards them, they'll generally vie away from that threat and rather go for easier prey, because as soon as they get hurt, they put in a tough situation and they're really going to struggle to hunt later on. So that's generally what does happen. But in actually what happens out there is I've had very few of my dogs that have actually got into fights with other predators. Only on 2 occasions have 2 dogs got into a fight with a leopard.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it does happen. But I mean, considering we've got 180 dogs out there, that's actually not many occasions.
Minimal, yeah.
And generally, you know, when we have a problem leopard in an area, it's a leopard that's really old and it hasn't got any teeth left and it's struggling to hunt its natural prey. That's why it goes for livestock. So that's when we do have a problem out there, is when we have these older leopards that are causing damage.
Easy target.
Wow. Yeah, very, very easy target. I mean, there's clearly a lot that goes into that, and we actually got a chance to catch up with you to see what goes into the training and the sustaining of such a project. And this is a typical day for Derek van der Merwe and his EWT team.
Hi, my name is Derek van der Merwe. I work for the Endangered Wildlife Trust, the Carnivore Conservation Program. I run the Wildlife Conflict Mitigation. I am the Wildlife Conflict Mitigation Officer. This project basically started 10 years ago because on farmland outside of protected areas there was a lot of conflict between farmers and predators, and farmers were losing a lot of livestock to these predators, and they were shooting them, they were gin trapping them, they were poisoning them, and we wanted to offer the farmers a non-lethal method of protecting their livestock and in the same time preserving predators, which is a win-win situation for both. But yeah, if you think about it, South Africa is a huge area, and only 6.5% of our land mass is actually officially protected. So there's large tracts of land that don't go protected, and there's very few people working on that land to try and conserve our biodiversity, our wonderful biodiversity that we do have in South Africa. So it's very important for us to work with these landowners, community members, to try and preserve what wildlife we do have outside of protected areas. We actually brought this concept in from Europe. Turkey, thousands of years ago, they actually used Anatolian livestock guardian dogs to protect sheep there from bears and wolves, and they've been using it for centuries over there, and we decided to bring the idea here to South Africa, and we started using Anatolians here, firstly in Namibia. And yeah, you know what, these dogs are fantastic. It's a nice non-lethal method of protecting your livestock, and we've had great success.
From dog training to fundraising, it's all in a day's work for these men and women on a mission. Derek, you touched on earlier about the dogs that you get from Turkey, but what kind of dogs in totality do you actually breed, and how do you actually train them?
All right, that's quite an interesting question, and it's quite complex, but we actually use two kinds of dogs in our project. We use the Anatolians, which originate from Turkey. They work very well. We've got a very well-known breeder up in Limpopo who breeds the dogs for us. She does a fantastic job, so we don't actually do any of the breeding, but we source all of our dogs from her. And then we use an African breeder, Maluti, which is interesting. It actually originates from Lesotho, and it's also a fantastic dog. Works just as well as the Anatolian. But the benefits of this dog is because it comes from South Africa, it's much more resilient to tick infestations, to disease, stuff like that. And also it's a little bit smaller, so you feed it a lot less, and that way it costs a lot less, which is great. But yeah, we use both dogs. We've also got a breeder out in Northwest who breeds with these Malutis, and we source all our dogs from them. But these dogs come from very good working lines, and they just work very well in the field. So it's important to look for a breeder who breeds with the right genetics. And then these dogs, how to train them, it's quite interesting. We actually take these little puppies, they're between 6 and 8 weeks old, so they're really small, and then we put them with their livestock that they're going to be guarding later on. And they grow up in a small enclosure. We put them in a small enclosure with some livestock for about 6 weeks, and then once they've formed a bond with that livestock, we move them into a bigger area, generally about 100 meters by 150 meters. And you can actually notice that when they've formed a bond with the livestock, they start sticking together, they play with each other. It's actually very cute. And then once that bond's been formed, we open the gates and off they go out into the field with their animals. When they're really young, you've got to keep an eye on them, because
they could be trampled, because I'm thinking a whole cow that's this big and then this little puppy.
No, it's very true. At the beginning, the cows don't actually like the dogs, and you have to make an area where we actually keep the cows away from the dogs, where the dog can escape. Otherwise, the dog can get hurt. So that's very important. And a cow's a lot bigger than a small puppy.
I mean.
But after a while, there's a fantastic bond formed between these animals, and they play with each other. I've even got photos of a dog biting a cow's horn, which is so cute. So and eventually, I mean, these dogs can give you 10 years of work out there in the field, and it's a fantastic investment for a landowner or community member, and it makes their life easy.
Conservationist of the Year nominees, it's the Endangered Wildlife Trust, EWT's Guarding Dog Project. If you'd like to vote for them, CONS3 is their code. SMS that to 43043. You can also email CONS3 to sativoting@nn7.com. And don't forget, by voting, you stand a chance to win a VIP experience to the awards, and you want that because tickets are not going to be on sale. But Derek was talking to us about how the dogs are trained. Let's actually go and see what happens out there on the field right now.
The process of breeding the Maluti mountain dogs, basically what you do is you must have decent parent stock. So you start off with decent parent stock that are able to adapt and bond with livestock. From there, the puppies are born within the kraal, or within the environment where the stock is, and you raise them up to about 6 to 10 weeks, dependent on when you're ready to place them.
Carnivores are very important in the ecosystem. They are a very important piece of the puzzle in keeping the ecosystem in balance. So they do weed out the weak and sick, and they do control prey numbers. And in areas where there's no large carnivores, prey numbers are inclined to get out of control, and then they in turn eat too much and impact on the vegetation. So it's all part of this really, really fine balance that nature has for itself. Our livestock guarding dog project was initiated to help farmers who are having damage from carnivores on their animals. So the idea is to find ways that the farmers can farm without having to kill the carnivores, but at the same time not have any loss to their livestock. So wow, what does our livestock guarding dog project do in a day? Wow, a lot. So we've got the dogs out in the field who are working, protecting their livestock and making sure that carnivores don't eat the livestock. We've got farmers who look after those dogs and take care of them. They feed them and dip them and make sure that they're healthy. We've got Derek, who's our field worker on the project, who monitors the dogs and makes sure that they're working properly and gathers data on the dogs on a monthly basis. Then back at head office, we're capturing that data, we're analysing the data, we're examining trends in the dogs and how much area we're covering and how many dogs we have placed and which dogs are successful and which dogs aren't. And then to do all of this work we require funds, so we're fundraising, we're writing reports to donors, we're writing funding applications, we're feeding back to people who've sponsored dogs. We're trying to raise awareness around the project, so we're posting on Facebook, we're writing newspaper articles. So yes, we're very busy and we're certainly not bored, but it's a project that we all feel very, very strongly passionate about. So every stitch of work that we do, be it balancing budgets or purchasing puppies, we do with a big smile on our faces. This project benefits lots of role players. First of all, the farmer benefits because he's making more money out of his farming practice. He's also able to leave his livestock, know that they're safe, and not have to spend extra time trying to protect livestock from carnivores, so he can carry on with more important farming activities. So certainly at ground level, the farmer benefits. Also carnivores benefit because now suddenly carnivores can live alongside livestock farmers. They're not being shot, there's no poison being put out, there's no snares, there's no traps. So carnivore conservation as a whole benefits. And there's also knock-on effects for other species on the farms, because often the farmers in desperation will throw out poison, and poison has massive impacts throughout the food chain. So vultures can be affected by poison, the smaller carnivores, anything that scavenges on that carcass. So really the benefits are across the board, even as far as the consumer, so that you know if you're eating meat that was produced using livestock guarding dogs, that it was done in a nice green, environmentally friendly manner. So when you have your Heritage Day braai, you can do so with a clean conscience. A lot of the conflicts exist because the farmers don't have information, which you think in this age of Google, everyone's got the information, but they actually don't. So a lot of the time it's from a lack of information that builds this conflict. And also a lot of the time the conflict comes because expectations aren't being met. So often the farmer expects to lose nothing to predation. Then he loses, say, 10 animals. And it's that gap between expectation and reality that causes that conflict. So we try to do several things. First of all, we work in communities on a long-term basis. We don't just come and go. So we've been based in Limpopo now for well over 10 years doing this work. So the farmers get to know us, they trust the organisation. Remember to please vote for the Endangered Wildlife Trust's Livestock Guarding Dog Project in the ANN7 South African of the Year Awards. Help us save our large carnivores.
Conservationist of the Year nominee, the EWT Guarding Dog Project. With us in the studio, Derek van der Merwe, who is a conflict mitigation field officer. I got that right without even looking at the paper this time.
And I'm going to make an attempt at that too. I can't even get that sentence out of my mind. But Derek, as you know, we have you in studio as the conflict mitigation field officer.
Look at you.
What are your duties exactly?
Well, I work across the country actually. Any community member or landowner out there who has a problem with predators, particular predators, because I work for the Carnival Conservation Program. See, these words are tough sometimes. But if they have a problem with any predators out there, they come to me, and we try and help them out with a solution for them to look after their livestock.
Well, Derek, we've seen that it has been going really, really well over the last 7 years, and you've had great interest from farmers across Mpumalanga and Limpopo really buying into the project of actually having livestock guarding dogs protect their livestock and small flock of herds of livestock. And we actually got a chance to speak to some of the farmers and see how this has benefited their actual group of livestock and how important this initiative is.
I'm Alan Retief. I'm a cattle farmer. We've always been farming cattle, and in the last few years we've suffered big losses to predators. 2 years ago I lost 16 calves in a season, and that's when I decided to look at alternative ways of looking after the cattle. I'd known about the livestock guardian dog program for a while, and I met Derek at a show and we spoke, and then he said that they would give me a dog to try out, and so I've had this dog for over a year, about a year and a half now. Last season I only lost 4 calves to predators. It's made a big difference. The predators know there's a dog around because if there's something around, he barks, and they don't want to go into an area where they know there's something else that's in that space. It's been a big success over here. Some farmers use different means of controlling predators. Some people use poison, which is indiscriminate. It can kill anything from your own animals to a whole lot of non-target species, and other people shoot. Both those methods are totally illegal. So this method of predator control is much more environmentally friendly than anything else, in that the predators are still around, but they don't cause that much conflict anymore, and the livestock are there, and the losses are drastically reduced. I've just received a second puppy, which is now an Anatolian, who is 8 weeks old. My first dog was a Maluti. A Maluti is more adapted to the African environment. He doesn't suffer from tick-borne diseases as much as the Anatolian will, and she'll grow a bit bigger. So we're going to now put each dog with different herds so that they can protect each herd, because I run a number of herds on the farm.
It's the South African of the Year Daily Show 2016, sitting down with phenomenal people who are doing extraordinary work. And today, conservation is what we're talking about. You know, sometimes I get so nervous about that word because I'm like, conversation. But we are looking at the EWT Guarding Dog Project, and we're sitting down with Derek van der Merwe.
Derek, you've clearly made a really big impact on the livelihood of the farmers themselves as well as their livestock. What were some of the inspirational stories, or one of the big differences that you've seen an impact from your EWT project that has really made it all worth it?
You know what, I actually came from a farming background myself, so I understood some of the challenges faced by farmers. I mean, it's your livelihood at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And in communities out there, I mean, the number of cattle you have in a herd is your bank at the end of the day. And for a predator to come into that area and to take out 2-3 of your animals, it really hurts. So some of the biggest challenges we have faced is poisons, gin traps, just some of the inhumane methods that people were using to to persecute predators. It was terrible. And you know what, if you go out there with a non-lethal method, and there's nothing better than if you do have a problem animal and you capture it and you relocate it to a certain area where you can release it. That feeling you get when you release an animal back into the wild, giving it a second chance, it's just an amazing feeling.
Passion and purpose. That's what we're getting here from our man Derek. And if you'd like to vote for this project that's doing such wonderful things in the conservation space, please get voting. SMS CONS3 to 43043 or email CONS3 to sativoting@nn7.com. But they're not alone in this category. There are 6 other nominees. I almost said 7, but the total is 7. So let's have a look at this category and how you can vote.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we want to get all farmers on board out there. We want to produce meat more environmentally friendly. We want to get poisons out of the farming and communities. We want to get gin traps out of. We want to get all the indiscriminate, inhumane methods of persecuting predators. We want to get that totally out of the system.
Welcome back. We're still in studio with Conservationist of the Year nominee Derek Vandermerwe, the Conflict Mitigation Officer of the EWT Livestock Guarding Dog Project.
We've had a lot of words to learn today, guys, so we're just putting it all together. Derek, you know, we were speaking earlier off air before the interview started, and about how this really is something that it's a calling. It's like being a doctor, a nurse, because as you said, you're probably not going to make a lot of money out of it in terms of your career, but it's a satisfactory feeling knowing that you do what you do. For a young person who's out there looking at you, thinking to themselves, Derek, I want to be like you. How do they get into the project? How can they possibly get to work with EWT to see if this is something that they'd like to do for the future?
You know, Busi, I couldn't agree with you more. I think I do have the best job in the world right now. But, you know, at conservation, it's very difficult. I would suggest they hang in there, they volunteer, they get involved as much as they can in projects. And you know what, you would develop a passion for something, and to hang in there and to choose a species which really interests you. That's what I would suggest to them. And, you know, at the end of the day, being a conservationist, we don't earn the most money in the world, but you get to see the most amazing areas. It's not a normal 9-to-5 job, but you're out there in the wild a lot, and you're seeing absolutely what we have in South Africa. We've got wonderful wildlife heritage. You're out there spending time with it. It's not a 9-to-5 job as well. You don't sit behind a desk, which is fantastic. But you know, at the end of the day, conservation is a passion, it's a calling, and it's you know, it's one of the few careers left where you can actually really make a difference and look back at your life one day and realize actually you contributed to saving this species or helping save that animal. So it's a fantastic job.
Part of the solution.
Well, Derek, speaking of looking back at your life and you know, seeing just how much you've enjoyed it, let's just see how much you can look back at your life now and see if you've gained that knowledge of South Africa, because we have a little fun game that we play here, which is our trivia section of the show, and we ask you how much you know about South Africa and your general knowledge, because of course this is the South African of the Year show, so we want to know if our nominees know enough about South Africa.
Oh dear.
But we're gonna keep it within your industry and see if it's more fair like that to really challenge you on those questions.
I bet you everyone is sitting at the office right now like, Derek, please do not let the team down. No pressure. Question number 1. What is the fastest land animal? I mean, Derek.
This is definitely a cheetah.
Yes!
There you go. It can reach speeds of 120 kilometers per hour.
Crazy.
Which is the smallest of the 9 provinces in South Africa?
It's definitely Gauteng.
The smallest in size, but the biggest in population. Isn't that
And
scary?
also what's really interesting is that the biggest province has the smallest population.
The
too.
Northern Cape, right?
Northern
I mean,
Cape.
if I'm looking at the map right now,
Yeah.
that looks big. Next question. How many toes does a white rhino have? Wow.
Oh, this is a good one. I don't really work on rhinos, but I would say there are 4.
Close. knows? It's 3.
3.
Oh dear.
Which province in South Africa has the largest man-made forest?
Man-made forest.
Wow.
It could be 2. It's either Mpumalanga or Limpopo, one of the 2.
Ooh.
Wrong. KZN.
Johannesburg.
Oh wow.
The largest man-made forest in the world.
Where's this forest?
So basically we've planted the most trees within an urban space in the world. We have over 10, I think it's 100,000?
Wow,
100,000 trees just all over.
See,
Yeah,
Derek,
that's
it's fine.
incredible.
Even the host gets. I even get educated on this show.
That's another thing. I mean, Joburg has the largest city in the world without a permanent water source. So that's very interesting.
That is insane. All right, final question. I'm hoping this one
That
is
doesn't
right
count
up
as a
your
mark
alley.
for you, by the way. You come with your own questions and trivia.
South Africa has the second highest waterfall in the world. What is it called?
I think it's Tugela Falls.
There we go.
My man, 3 out of 5. The total drop of the Tugela Falls is 948 meters. If you don't know, now you know. 3 out of 5, that's not bad.
I was just making sure you wouldn't say that last
Not
time.
fair.
60% are passed.
Derek, you've already achieved a lot with EWT Livestock Dog Guarding Project. I need to get that order right. Guarding Dog Project.
That's the one.
And you have already made the leaps and bounds that you've wanted to, but what do you guys still want to achieve and where do you see the project going?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we want to get all farmers on board out there. We want to produce meat more environmentally friendly. We want to get poisons out of the farming and communities. We want to get gin traps out. We want to get all the indiscriminate, inhumane methods of persecuting predators. We want to get that totally out of the system, and we want to help farmers out. And we want to, at the end of the day, we want them to produce more meat at the end of the day, and we want them to live in harmony with predators. So that's our end goal at the end of the day, and I hope that one day we can achieve that.
I certainly hope you continue doing the great work that you're doing, Derek. Now, I asked you this question off air, but I'm waiting to hear what the answer is because you never answered me then. But you're nominated in a category with 6 other nominees who also are all doing great work, you know, from the Eco Solutions Township Owl Project to Valpro. If you weren't to win the award, who's the Conservationist of the Year 2016?
That's a really tough question. You know what, at the end of the day, I think all conservationists are on the same side. It's not really a competition. We've got the same end goal, and that is to save species out there. And I think at the end of the day, we're all winners. And I really want to congratulate them on the work and keep doing the work that they are doing, because at the end of the day, we're doing work for animals which don't really have a voice. And really just continue doing the great work that they're doing. And I'm just happy to be nominated.
Thank you very much, Derek. And do yourselves a favor and do go to the website and check out all the great work that they're doing. They've got a fantastic gallery there of what their livestock guarding project, dog project, gets up to. And you might be lucky enough to get in touch with Derek himself, and he'll show you a photo which we spoke about offline during the ad break about him getting bitten on his backside by an elephant seal. Remember, if you want to vote for them, their numbers are cons3, and you can do that at 43043. Just SMS to that number. But we'll be seeing you again on South African of the Daily Show. But for myself, Maps Maponyani, good night.
Thank you so much for watching Dima Dekwana Buddhi.